We've got some massive news for NIO stock investors as the company said it was cash flow positive in the next quarter, in the most recent quarter, I should say. That's a huge inflection point for a company that's been investing aggressively in growth. The company also said that the newer brand, Onvo, will be selling tens of thousands of units in the upcoming quarter. So it's looking great for NIO stock investors. Let's take a look at all the details from the company's latest quarterly earnings release on November 20th, 2024.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
Right, NIO told investors that vehicle deliveries in the third quarter of 2024 came in at 61,855, and that was up 11.6% from the same quarter last year. Only 832 of these vehicles were from the company's newer Onvo brand, which just launched in late September. This brand already sold over 10,000 units in the fourth quarter, which the company has yet to report on, but they did give us an insight into the first month of sales for October. Another impressive accomplishment for NIO was improving its vehicle profit margin, which increased to 13% in the third quarter of 2024. That's up from 12.2% in the second quarter of 2024 and 11% in the third quarter of 2023. So a 210 basis point improvement in the profit margin per vehicle sold for NIO. However, it wasn't all great news. Total revenues came in at 2.66 billion, which was down 2% from the same quarter last year. NIO continues losing money on the bottom line. The loss from operations increased to 746 million. That was up by 8% from the same quarter last year. As I mentioned earlier, the company gave us insight into sales in October, or deliveries in October. They've already delivered almost 21,000 vehicles in the fourth quarter, which started in October. The deliveries consisted of 16,600 from the NIO brand and 4,300 from the family-oriented smart electric vehicle brand Onvo. The Onvo brand is on pace to deliver over 12,000 units in the fourth quarter, and management says that production will ramp up since it started. Here they say on September 19th, the first model from Onvo, the L60, which was a mid-sized SUV. The production and delivery of L60 have been steadily ramping up since late September. And given that the numbers from September to October increased meaningfully, that's really great news for NIO stock investors. A lower priced brand is going to expand the availability to more customers that can afford lower priced models. Now, the electric vehicle industry in China is unlike it in the United States and in Europe. In the US and Europe, people don't really want electric vehicles. If you think about the overall market dynamics in terms of how much governments are spending to try and incentivize increases in EV sales, they are barely budging. EV sales are up roughly 10% year over year in the US and Europe. But more importantly, less than 1 out of 10 vehicles sold are an electric vehicle in the US and Europe. However, in China, roughly 3 out of 10 vehicles sold are electric vehicles. So demand in the market, I mean, it's not apples to apples here, but you could think of it as demand for electric vehicles in China is roughly 3 times that compared to demand for electric vehicles in the US and Europe. And part of the reason is there's many more affordable models in China for electric vehicles, and so that's driving adoption of electric vehicles. Whereas in the US and Europe, well, let's talk just about the US. Their pricing for electric vehicles, it's more expensive than traditional internal combustion engine models, and then it also adds more inconvenience, right? Because you've got to have charging, and charging takes a lot longer than filling up gas in your vehicle. And then something that I haven't talked a lot about electric vehicles is the ecosystem, right? The repairs, the servicing, all of that that's been increasing for internal combustion engine vehicles for decades, whereas it's just getting started for electric vehicles. So Electric vehicles, their prospects are much better in China than they are in the United States, and that's great news for NIO and NIO stock investors. The company's management continues to say that the deliveries of the L60 have commenced, with production capacity set to rapidly expand in the next few months. The company's total delivery volume for the fourth quarter is expected to reach a new record. That's great to hear, right? You could have been hearing the opposite, which would have been the management team coming to you and saying, look, I know we've been talking about this new brand, but now that we launched, it looks like customers don't really like this model. And so we're going to pull back, right? That's what they could have told you. But instead, what you're hearing is, man, we've already sold over 4,000 units and we're going to rapidly expand production because what we're seeing from consumers is that they really like this car at this price point. So that's great news. And then to add to that, they're adding a new brand, Firefly, which is positioned in the compact vehicle segment. The big thing for me for the quarter was that they turned free cash flow positive. That means if they can continue like this, they can be self-sustaining. They don't need to go back to investors and ask for more money if they can be cash flow positive from here on out. Now, they didn't say that they are going to be cash flow positive in every quarter from now until the future, but this is a huge inflection point that they did hit free cash flow positive in this quarter, and hopefully they can continue this trend and keep cash flow positive for the foreseeable future, and then they don't need to go to investors and ask for more money. And so that'll allow them to sustain themselves, to grow the business and hit certain milestones. And then if they find an attractive opportunity to go and get more capital for investors so that they can grow the business further, they can do that. But they don't need to. So they won't need to go to investors in desperation asking for more money because they're losing so much money during operation. So this was huge. This was great. Congratulations to NIO stock investors. They went on to say that starting next year, their three brands are poised to embark on a robust product cycle, which is going to elevate the company's sales volume to new heights. They expect this momentum will drive continued improvements in the company's operational and financial performance. So they are saying that they expect their financial performance to improve, but they didn't explicitly state that they're going to be free cash flow positive in every quarter from here on out. But what they are indicating is that they're going to be on a better trajectory here financially going forward. It looks like most of the investments for growth are now starting to pay off for NIO and NIO stock investors. Hey everyone, so many of you have been asking about my investing strategy, and I'm excited to announce that I've written a book that's available for sale now that describes my 6-step investing framework for evaluating stocks. I've added the link in the description below.